Alrighty, so what we're going to do today is we are going to take a look at how to use Originality reports in Google Classroom. This is something that we've been waiting for quite some time, East Baton Rouge Parish Schools, and we now have the ability to run unlimited Originality reports. So we're going to take a few minutes here and we're going to discuss how to do those. Okay, so Originality reports are going to start with your assignment creation. So as you go into Google Classroom and you start to create an assignment, you're going to see something that looks like this here in the background. Once you have included your title and you have written your instructions, of course, which are optional, you're going to have the options to add attachments or to create other documents or anything like that that you can create on Google Apps. Okay, so I strongly recommend getting your assignment ready to go, attaching all attachments, and making sure that all of that is ready. Then we move over here, and this is where we're going to set up for indicating which students that this assignment is going to apply to. If you've got them broken down into classes, multiple classes, this is where you're going to do that. Then you do your points indication, your due date, topic, all of that. Then down here at the bottom, you're going to see this area that says check plagiarism, originality, and learn more. Okay, what you're going to want to make sure and do is make sure that that box is checked. If you do not check that box, then your originality reports will not be turned on. Okay, so that's very, very important to do, to make sure that is checked. Once you've got your assignment completed and that box is checked, you can go ahead and hit assign, and then what you've done is you've turned on the feature of originality reports on that particular assignment. Now, say for instance you forget to turn on that originality report. You don't click that box. Okay, what you can do is you can do this after you have already assigned your assignment. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to go back into your classwork stream, and you want to locate that particular assignment, as I've done here. I want to view my assignment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to click my 3 vertical dots, and that's going to give me the option to edit. Okay, so once I click on the edit, it's going to bring up my assignment and everything in it. This should look familiar. Then I'm going to go down here and I'm going to click on this box. Alright, now this may be disabled for you. Alright, the reason it's going to be disabled is if, say for instance, you have created your assignment and you've assigned it to your students, and your students have started working on it and they've submitted or turned in the assignment. So say you have 25 students, you can have just one turn this in, and all of a sudden this checkbox is going to be disabled. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to go back into your turned in assignments, as if you were grading the assignments, and you need to return all assignments back to the students. Now, if you don't want to grade just yet because you want to make sure to run your originality reports, then I would just highly suggest making sure to return them without scores, and then let your students know that you needed to make a change or an edit to your assignment. And then once you do that and they're all turned back in and there's nothing sitting in your queue to grade, go back into the assignment, and then you'll notice that that checkbox will be enabled again. Okay, so if you forget to do this initially, just make sure that if anyone has turned in an assignment, that you make sure to get that assignment returned back to all students. That way this will be enabled, and then you can turn on your originality reports. So go there and click on the check mark and then hit save, and then all of a sudden you will have the use of originality reports on this assignment. Okay, so there is a workaround if you happen to forget about it, but you do have to return all assignments before you can make that change. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Now let's talk about how to actually run an originality report. So here we have an assignment. This is the same assignment that I was showing earlier. This particular student needed to write a letter to the editor utilizing a specific site and a source. They had some directions, and then under those directions on the Google Doc, they needed to write their letter to the editor, and then once they were done with that, they needed to turn it in. Okay, so this particular student has turned this in, and I'm looking at it in the mode to give them points. And if I look over here, I have a couple of files. The one I'm going to be grading is this one because this is the one they turned in. Generally, I'll create an assignment in Spanish for my Spanish-speaking students, but this particular student is an English speaker, so they chose this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for this blue text. Okay, this blue text will say check plagiarism. Now, if there isn't this blue text here, that means that I have forgotten to turn the originality reports on. So that's a good accountability measure to let you know that if it's not there, you need to return these assignments and go back and turn it on, and then have your students resubmit their assignments. Okay, but it's here, so what I can do is I will click on it, and once I click on that, it's an active link, and what happens is it starts to run the originality report. It'll say that it's running the report, so you'll just need to give it a few moments. Sometimes it can take a couple seconds, sometimes it can take up to a minute. It just really depends upon how much content Google needs to sift through while running this report. Okay. Now, once this report is finished, it will look something like this. Okay, this one says one flagged passage, and this is also in blue text. So my next step would be to click on that so I can look at the data that the originality report turned up. Okay, so here we are looking at the actual submission in the originality report of that same student. And if we look here, we'll see that there's a passage here that's highlighted in gray. This is the flagged passage. All right. So over on the right side of that screen, you'll have a summary, and it defaults to this count option. And what the count option does is it shows you how many passages are flagged, and it also gives an option of how many passages are cited or quoted. And you'll notice that there's a radial toggle over here on the right, and that it's gray, which means it's disabled. Okay, if we hit that radial toggle, it'll turn blue, and over here we'll see that those cited and quoted passages will also be highlighted. Okay, but right now our top priority are the ones that aren't cited or quoted. Now these may be inaccurate, and that's why that toggle is there, so we can make sure to turn it on and go look and make sure that our students are accurately citing and quoting authors. Okay, but right now the flagged passage says, hey, there's an issue here because we have something that looks like plagiarism where there's no citation, no quotation. Okay, and that's the priority. So down here, it's going to give you your web matches, and then it will give you your specific web matches. So right here it says there's one web match, and that one comes from allsides.com. So if I click on this this arrow, it's going to give me a drop down that looks like this right here. Okay, so this gives me the student's passage at the top that was flagged, and it's in bold. All right, it says private actors should use their power to reduce expression. And then down here it shows the top web match. And if we look at it, it's almost verbatim, right? Private actors should use their power to reduce. Okay, and then down below that it gives the very specific website with blue text, which indicates it's a hyperlink. And if we click on that hyperlink, it takes us to the specific site where that information was pulled. And then we can go ahead and view that site for ourselves. Okay, so what this is going to do is this is going to give you not just the passage, it's going to give you the exact context and an option to go and look at the specific website that it was pulled from. Okay, that's how we run an originality report. That's how we check it. This is another example. This is a different student with the same assignment, and this one has two flagged passages. Okay, and you can see those in gray. So here's the first one, and here's the second one. So if we look at count, it's going to tell us there's two flagged passages. This student also did not cite or quote any passages, so it says none, and this is completely inactive because it's irrelevant. All right. Now, if I want to click on the percentage, okay, that's the other option. Like I said before, it always defaults to count, but there's also the percentage option. If we look down here, after we click on the percentage, you can see the difference. Okay, so up here under count, there's two flagged passages. Down here, it tells us it's 8% flagged content. Okay, so two flagged passages could be a little, it could be a little confusing or a little misdirecting, because say for instance you have two flagged passages on one thing, but that's like 75% of the content of whatever they submitted. Okay, it just really depends. So we can look here and tell that the two flagged passages, although there's two, it's still not a huge majority of what this particular student turned in. Okay, and then down below that it gives us the percentage matches. So we have half of it was on index on censorship.org and half of it was on freedomforuminstitute.org. Okay, and so we can tell that there's a couple of things happening. That last student pulled some information directly from the page that they were supposed to read for the assignment, and this student pulled information from two separate websites that were not on the list to read, which could be good or could be bad. It could be that the student was trying to look for information to copy and paste since it wasn't on the original site that was referenced, or it could mean that they were just looking for some supporting material from another source, which is a good thing. So this could be an instance where the student was either trying to plagiarize or they were trying to do something well and just didn't do it correctly. Okay, so that's another great thing about the originality report. We're not necessarily looking for plagiarism per se. We're looking for opportunities to teach, okay, and for them to learn. So that's the difference between the count and the percentage tabs over on the summary menu. Now let's go ahead and look at one of the greatest functions, is the printer function. Okay, so in the summary you'll have noticed that there was a printer icon in the top right corner. All right, so the printer icon is great because when you click on it, it gives you a very detailed originality report. All right, and this is just one of 2 pages of the last specific example we're looking at. So with that student that had 2 flagged passages, we get a report that's 2 pages long. Okay, so it gives us the student name, the file name, when it was created, the summary based on percentage of flagged content, what the student wrote that was flagged, the top web match, the specific passages, and where they were found on the internet. So this is everything that you need to know. The reason I like this report is because in the cases where you do have students that are plagiarizing, or maybe they've developed a pattern of plagiarizing, this is really, really, really good documentation that you might need to have in place. Say, for instance, if you provide those zeros for your students, okay, because if you're a parent or if you've dealt with parents, you will know that they want to make sure that their children are getting the best education, and they want to know when less than desirable grades are being given. Okay, so this can be one of those things to show why those grades were given, and in any disciplinary proceedings that might come out of something like that. I mean, hopefully that's not going to be the case, but if it is, that's what this function is here for. This is also something you can provide the parents if they have any questions, or the student as well. All right, and one thing I do want you to notice, your originality reports are time sensitive. Okay, you can run as many originality reports as you want. That's one of the great benefits that we have with Google right now, is we can run unlimited amount, but they are time sensitive. Notice up here in the summary menu, it tells you that the originality report expires in April 8th, 2021. Okay, I ran this report on February 22nd, 2021. So we're looking at about a 6-week window, right? So if you wait too long to run these reports, say you are noticing patterns with a particular student who might be plagiarizing their documents on a consistent basis, if you're not running those reports in a timely fashion, then they're going to expire, and you're not going to be able, if you don't print it out, you're not going to have that documentation. Okay, so that's one thing you need to be aware of, is it doesn't last forever, but this can be a very, very, very useful tool for you to make sure that you're holding students accountable, and that you're holding yourself accountable if you happen to be running into issues of plagiarism, right? Okay, so that's how the originality reports look from the perspective of teachers. So how do they look from the perspective of students? Because students have the ability to run originality reports as well. Okay, so when they get ready to turn in an assignment, of course you've all seen this blue button that they have that says turn in. If originality reports are turned on, on their assignment, then they'll see this above the turn in. Okay, they can click to learn more, but they can also click run. Okay, so if they click run, they'll get this window here, and it says it's kind of a warning that gives them information to let them know that they have 3 originality reports that they can run on that particular assignment. Okay, so say they've got a long paper that they're writing. Say it's an essay that's 2 to 3 pages. They've been working on it for quite some time. They have 3 originality reports that they can run on this thing. So if they click on run, it's going to run the first one. Excuse me. And what you see down here, this is their view. Okay, so they see their assignment, their Google Doc, and they have the chance to edit. And as you can see here, on that last assignment that we saw, that last example, the student had 2 flagged passages, and they show up right here. So they see this one and this one. So this student has the option to hit edit, and they can go in and they can make the changes that they need to. So they can go and find where they got these passages, and they can accurately quote them and or cite them. Okay, and that gives them kind of the opportunity to take a look at what they've done and make sure that they're not making mistakes. What Originality Report should really be used for a student is to work on their draft status on their assignments. One of the things that's been happening as we move to an increasingly virtual classroom is kind of the I wouldn't say the absence of, but it's becoming less prominent, that idea that we need to write a rough draft, submit it to our teacher, get it back, make the changes, and then that process goes back and forth a few times. That's something that was very prominent on paper, but has become less prominent in the virtual world. With things like the originality reports, we can kind of bring that back. Okay, so this is an accountability measure that the students can use that Google provides for them and lets them know, hey, here's some issues right here. Go ahead and fix these and resubmit. So say this student fixes it the best they can. They hit edit. They make the changes. I'm sorry, let's go back. They make the changes, and then they submit. Okay, so then the teacher gets the assignment and runs the originality report, and there's some more things that pop up. Well, at that point, the teacher can then go back, send a message to the student, let them know that there were some issues that popped up, let them know what the issues are, and send it back to the student. And then at this point, the student has 2 more originality reports that they can run on that particular assignment. So you can see how the process can go back and forth. And what you can really do with this is not use it as so much as a plagiarism measure, but it can turn into one of those tools that can be really, really, really useful to teach your students how to accurately quote and cite authors within text, okay, and provide evidence for their claims that they're making. So, yeah, originality reports typically are used to make sure that plagiarism doesn't occur, but really what it can be turned into is a tool for learning and instruction when it comes to responsible referencing, okay? Last but not least, I've put a couple of links for those of you who would like to use this as a resource, this presentation, which I will have a link to this in the description on YouTube. And once you utilize that resource, if you go into present mode, these will be active links. Okay, the first link goes to a very well done video on how to utilize originality reports. So if you'd like a different perspective, I would definitely recommend this link. One great thing the author does in this link as well is they compare it to another very well-known and much used application called Turnitin. So it gives a comparison between the functions and features of the functionality and features of Turnitin and those of originality reports available through Google. Okay, and then also there is another link here that gives you help and support straight from Google Classroom support. So this is not going to be a video, but it's going to be a step-by-step process on how to utilize these reports that's available by Google, who created it as well. If you have any questions, again, my email is champton2@ebrschools.org, and I am happy to answer any questions you have, and thank you so much for giving me your time. I hope these work out well for you.